ministers, that we should be ready to respond if needed. And that's why we start the preparatory work, as the Commissioner just said. There will be a new second package, which will be circulated among countries, and then we leave no, we will come back to the other issues. I mean, we do not want a trade war with the US. We want to avoid it, and we had, I think, many of us, and I want to thank the Commissioner for being very transparent in his negotiations with the US team, the clear impression that we was very, very close an agreement in principle. Unfortunately, it wasn't possible due to this presidential letter, but it is still our major vision that we should reach an agreement. But we also want to send a clear signal that it must be a fair deal for everybody, and if that's not possible to reach, then we will leave out no options, and we know very well that we have a toolbox with a lot of tools.
I totally agree with the description of the President of the Council. What I would add is about the postponement of the measures. As you know, there have been certain deadlines inserted in our decisions, and that they would kind of lead to the imminent triggering of these measures. And we, as we clearly stated, we want to use every day, every possibility and every minute until the 1st of August to find a negotiated solution. That's a clear preference of all the ministers. But as it was also very obvious from the discussions today, the 30% is absolutely unacceptable. This is the level which is absolute prohibitive to any trade. So in this case, we clearly would negotiate as intensely as required and as intensely as possible. And of course, we'll try to deliver the results by the 1st of August. But if this would not be possible, it was also very clear today, and I have to say that comparing to the previous discussions we had with the ministers, now it came very clear across the table. So if this is a situation, we have to protect the jobs, we have to protect the businesses, we have to protect EU economy, and we need to go for these rebalancing measures. That message was strongest I've witnessed since we started the discussion with the US, and therefore we'll negotiate first, but we'll prepare at the same time. And of course, as I said, concerning also anti-coercion instrument, everything is on the table, but we'll take it step by step and one thing after another.
Go for Financial Times. Andrew, please.
Thanks. Yeah, Andy Bounds from the Financial Times. Just on there's talk about this communication, greater communication with trading partners. Can you elaborate, both of you, please, on what that actually means? I mean, is this talking about joint response, joint retaliation, or just some kind of group therapy? Thanks.
I think we are not in the need of that one, but I think we are already by now quite battle hardened by the tough negotiations, and you've been following us through several of them, so you know that it's true. But of course, it's very good to compare the notes. As you see right now, all the major trading partners of US got the letter, all of them, and got the letter between 25 to 35%. So it's only natural that first and foremost we want to compare the notes. Secondly, we also want to discuss how this is affecting the economy, the trading partners, and of course we are very obviously also discussing what we can do to trade more with each other. That was a very clear message from the trade ministers today. Work as hard as possible on new market access, use the existing free trading agreements which are there, and we happen to have the free trade agreements now with all of these major trading partners, and we intend to use them to the maximum.
Could I just add that until now our American friends have achieved one deal and 23 threats, so it makes a lot of sense that those of us who are threatened compare notes, as the Commissioner said. And I think we shouldn't underestimate our power. If you look at the figures, I mean, what we have on FTAs on the table substitute a lot in comparison with trade with the US. the single market. If we enhance the single market, I think the figures are very well known. If we increase trade among ourselves by 2.5%, it will substitute a decrease in US by 20%. So it shouldn't overshadow the fact that we are going for a deal with US, but we shouldn't underestimate the strength of our position.
Thank you. And I think we'll go for Lise.
Hi, Lise Hesselund from TV2 Denmark. My question is for you, Mr. Šefčovič. Two questions, if I may. First of all, what exactly makes you so sure that there is still a way for these negotiations? You have been negotiating with the Americans for many weeks. So what exactly makes you sure that that there is a possibility that these negotiations will succeed? And also, would you consider in the Commission to take these negotiations to the highest level? Would it make sense to have direct negotiations between Ursula von der Leyen and between Donald Trump? And if so, would you also try and pressure a way forward for that to happen? Thanks.
I think to answer your first question, of course, the last week, as you can imagine, we had very intense and frequent contacts with my counterparts, both Secretary of Commerce, Mr. Latnik, and Ambassador Greer, the U.S. trade representatives, because my impression really was that if it comes to agreement in principle, we're actually very, very close. And what we've been working on is to find the mutually acceptable solutions on the so-called 232 sectors. Then I appreciated that a bit very shortly before, but we got the heads up on the letter, which we will be getting. And at the same time, we discussed that, of course, I have to kind of come back to my institutions, to my president, and then that I will have actually on Monday morning, which has happened, the session with all trade ministers. So it would be good to compare the notes tonight. And this is what we are going to do, to confer again with my partners in US, what is the discussion in US administration, in the White House, and I will share with them our impression and our assessment after this week. And then, of course, we would further explore the possibilities to achieve the negotiated solutions. I mean, my impression was that that was something worth working for, because otherwise you wouldn't spend like 3 months on drafting the agreement in principles and going through 1,700 tariff lines, discussing all details from agriculture to the spare parts for the cars, if this should just end it by one, even though very, very important letter. So I believe that there is still a potential to continue the negotiations, even though, of course, this letter triggered very strong waves in Europe, and I will be very open about that. Concerning the discussion on the highest level, President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, had several contacts, personal contacts on her level with the President of the United States, Donald Trump. She had several phone calls with him as well. And of course, we are talking not only to my counterparts, but also to the White House officials, so the negotiations are going on all levels.
I have to say our minister will have to chair the EU Central America Association Council in a few moments. We have time for one last question, but please be brief. Bloomberg.
Thank you very much. Jorge Valero with Bloomberg. It's a question for both of us. One question. The letter sent by Trump is interpreted as a negotiation tactic to add additional pressure to the EU, and there were several points that were still open before reaching this agreement in principle. So my question is whether the EU is ready to drop these demands on these issues. There were car tariffs, agri-tariffs, and other issues, ready to drop these demands in order to avoid this 30% tariff, or this will be considered as an unbalanced deal, and therefore you will keep pushing regardless of what could be the outcome of it?
I think I will start. As I said, we've been quite close in agreeing the text on the agreement in principles, but there have been clearly the areas where we had quite big gap between our two positions. So I will not go into the detail on these gaps because I prefer to negotiate directly with my partners, which I will do this evening. And for us, what is absolutely clear is that if you want to land it, and I was very open with my US counterparts, it has to be the agreement which would have the support of our member states, of the European Parliament, and it has to be the agreement which would be acceptable to us. So this would be something on what we would be working for.
Well, just very brief, and not much to add. I think it makes absolutely sense not to negotiate in this open room with our American counterparts. What is important as a takeaway from today's meeting is that the ministers had a very, very clear position. I think when I entered this meeting, and I apologize for the rhetoric, I said if you want peace, you have to prepare for war. It's not that we want a war, but we need to prepare in order to give our Commissioner the strongest possible negotiation position. And I think we managed to achieve that today.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Thank you so much.
So I will see you.